And we're live again. Welcome back, everybody, to the second segment of a special edition of Conway's Corner. I'm joined with special guest Jacob Cooperman.
Hello.
We just got done talking all about our thoughts and hopes and dreams about the upcoming MLB season. And now I think we're going to get into something that I've never been much of a big NBA guy, but I'm trying recently more to get into it just because it's like a fun thing to watch. Playoffs are always fun. There's a lot of big personalities in there, and a few of my roommates are big basketball guys as well.
Especially with the league now, it's a lot more transparency and a lot more competitive than it was in past years, because you had the Golden State Warriors dynasty reigning over the league, and now there's more talent, and it's more, the talent is more stretched out over the course of the league, so it's really just fun to watch this year. So if you've picked a year to get into the NBA, like this year's a good year.
I'm doing right then. But one of the things that's really caught my attention is, if you follow sports in any capacity, it's kind of impossible not to know about Zion Williamson. I feel like,
of course,
his name's just all over the place. And when I've been watching like morning sports talk shows with my roommates, my buddies, and I see all the hosts talking about Williamson and comparing him to LeBron. I don't know. I might not know enough about this to actually have this opinion, but is this like from you, like a more experienced basketball fan, or like person who watches it? Do you think it's like fair or like stupid to compare a player like Zion, who's been in the league for maybe like a month, to a legend like LeBron, who's been doing this forever?
Well, you know what? That's a multifaceted conversation you can have, because with a guy like Zion, obviously, if you watched him at all through college, you know that this kid's a special talent. I was watching him through high school. I watched him at Duke. I'm watching him now coming back from an injury, dropping 24 points a game, doing ridiculous things, bullying people down low. Then you got a guy like LeBron. He's a veteran in the league. I think it's his 17th or 18th season now, and his production is still insane, and he's still carrying teams. And when you talk about a legacy like LeBron, what are they compared to? Was it LeBron versus Jordan, or is it? What was the comparison they made? It was,
I've been seeing a lot of now. I've been
Zion.
seeing a lot of just people comparing Zion to LeBron, and it strikes me as possibly a bit odd considering the disparity in like time that they've been in the NBA to
no, definitely. I think it's like you have to take time. So when having a conversation like this, right, it's kind of the same as if you have a LeBron versus Jordan conversation. You got to kind of take into consideration time. You got to take into consideration the skill level and where they're at the league. So it's Zion's freshman year in the league, and he's already dropping 24. And then I'd say the third kind of bracket that you need to look at is melding those two together. So what did LeBron do when he was Zion's age, and what is Zion doing that LeBron's not doing? So to make a comparison, it wouldn't be that asinine in itself, but
okay.
I definitely agree that people could kind of be like pressing on the brakes a little bit, because I see a lot of people talking about how, to quote another comparison, how Zion and LeBron going to battle is like, I think it was, what was it like, Jordan and LeBron when he was younger going to battle. So it's all about the different kind of what's the word for it? It's the different comparisons that you can make, and to what capacity you make that comparison, and how it translates over through time periods, right? So obviously right now, like a young guy like Zion, you can't compare him to LeBron all the way fully, because he just doesn't have as much time in the league.
Yeah.
It would be ridiculous to compare him at this point, but you can compare him relative to where LeBron was when he was his age.
Okay.
And
makes sense.
What he's predicted to do in the future. Obviously, you also have to take into account his team. Zion has a very talented team around him that's enabled him to flourish a little bit. He has, Lonzo Ball, a great point guard that has great court vision and can get someone the ball. He has Brandon Ingram, and they're shaping up to be a playoff team even though they're young. So everyone on that team is over exceeding expectations in terms of the season. And then you put a guy like Zion in there that's been over exceeding everyone's expectations all the way since high school. You're going to have a lot of comparisons like that to LeBron, to maybe even Jordan. I mean, you think about it like this: Zion got a Jordan sponsorship before he even stepped foot on an NBA court. So, draw the conclusions where you want to draw them. But right now I think it would be better to just let him be Zion instead of comparing him. At this point, once he gets older, then you can maybe start drawing comparisons here and there. But he's his own beast.
That's true. He probably doesn't want to be known as like the next LeBron James.
Right.
He probably wants to be like, I'm like the first Zion Williamson.
Right. Yeah.
I want people 20 years from now to be compared to him.
And I think a kid like him is going to be a generational athlete. I mean, if you see what he does on the court, it's ridiculous. It's like not like anything I've ever seen. Like nobody comes back from an injury in, I believe it was his knee, and is back to dropping 24 points just like that. Like that's pretty unprecedented for a league like this. So, he's his own beast, and I think he's going to do great things. And the ceiling is what is it? His ceiling is high, right? The sky is the limit for this kid. So I'm really excited to watch him play, and in later years you could definitely give him some comparisons.
So from what little I know about basketball, I'm trying to like get more knowledgeable on the sport, watching it a lot more recently. I feel like even I can tell like a layman to the sport watching Zion play that I can like see him do something or see him consistently put up points and like be like, wow, the hype is probably all real. Like this kid's not over exaggerating how good he was supposed to be.
Right.
Do you think that he's like, I know once again asking for like a more educated standpoint on the sport, do you think he actually is like this all-time like prospect that's probably gonna hopefully could like stick around for the next like decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like he's got the attitude, he keeps his head down, he works, he's got the skill. Usually you see rookies in past years, their skill set kind of dips off or drops off once they get to the league, because obviously it's a bigger league. Guys are more physical. The skill level is a lot higher than college. But with guys like, I draw other comparisons to John Morant, the rookie out of Marquette, I believe, or what college did he play for? He exploded in the tournament. But guys like him and Zion, they've been over-exceeding expectations greatly. And they're playing their hearts out in a league where, rookies are not supposed to be doing this well. So when you talk about, you said you think that he's going to be a generational athlete and he's going to exceed expectations in coming years. He's already done that pretty much. So I guess my biggest question to whether or not he has sustainability within a league like this would be, can he keep himself from getting injured? Because that's something that you saw he kind of dealt with a little bit of trouble in Duke, and now for the first half of the NBA season. Can he keep himself healthy? He's already got the mentality to be a great athlete in the sport, but to me, it kind of comes down to his health, because I think his skill will continue to rise, especially like on a team like the Pelicans, where they're constantly gelling and they're a young team, but they've seemed to have came together pretty close, and now they're challenging for the 8th seed for a playoff spot. So yeah. No, to me, the only really factor that comes down to it is just his health. And besides that, the rest, you just got to be in the gym. He's got to keep his head down, and he'll do great, because he's already got the natural athleticism and skill. He's already developing a 3-ball. So
the health is like what happened to him. Like the start of the season wasn't just like a completely random, or injuries always kind of random. But is he like known? You mentioned he struggled with this in Duke a little bit. Is he always a little bit of a risk to not be healthy all the time?
Well, you know what? The way he was operating both in Duke and in the NBA, there were some questions about his weight. And I don't mean this in like a rude way, but I mean literally like they had to reteach him how to walk due to the fact that he was so heavy. I think he was he over 300? He's like 6'7", 3 something.
He's built like a football player.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. No, he's ridiculous. And so they kind of retaught him how to walk. That was part of his physical therapy coming back from the injury. So it stands. The question stands now that, is he going to be able to stay healthy with this new system? Obviously, he worked close with the Pelican staff, with the trainers. They kind of, redesigned the way he does things. So to me, really, barring a freak injury, it should be okay from now on. But, if you have an injury in Duke and then an injury in the league, I mean, that's 2 injuries within the span of a couple of years, not even maybe a year. That's obviously, with any team, they're going to look at that as like, wow, that could be a high injury risk player. So that's something to look out for. But from now, he's back to jumping up and getting his head above the rim from a knee injury. So that's pretty ridiculous in itself. So I don't know. I'm kind of split. I think he'll be all right though. This mic's always a little faulty.
All right. Yeah, we try to keep stuff as up to date as possible at WICR, but so many loyal club members using all the same equipment gets run down. But don't worry.
Sometimes.
It just shows how passionate we are about the radio.
Of course, yeah. Many people have gripped onto this mic, just like
Yeah.
me.
So, but like I don't even know much about like the playoff picture shaping up for the. When does the NBA playoff start?
They usually start around the same time that the NHL Stanley Cup starts, so it's around like what, April maybe,
And like into the summer.
Into the summer, yeah.
So are we likely to see Zion and the Pelicans and like LeBron and the Lakers in the playoffs?
Yeah, well, actually, if the Pelicans can make the 8th spot, the 8th seed in the playoffs, they would go against the Lakers in the first round because it would be the first versus the 8th. And there's so many, like I was talking to a friend of mine about this. There's so many underlying storylines to that because you have, well, obviously you're a newly minted fan to the sport.
Trying
so
to get into it, yeah.
Did you ever hear about the Anthony Davis trade that the Lakers got him for basically all of their star young players and they just gave him away? Essentially 3 of the now starting players on the Pelicans, so that's Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram, were on the Lakers, and they were all traded away by what we call GM LeBron, which is LeBron that makes all the decisions for the team, no matter if they have a GM already or not. He traded all of them away, and now they're on the Pelicans, and now LeBron has a super team with AD there. So there's going to be that storyline going into. There's going to be, like, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, Zion versus LeBron, a lot of the comparisons there. There's going to be that storyline if they get the A seed in the playoffs. And overall, it's going to be an interesting playoff series because we're going to be seeing another storyline, Zion in the playoffs for the first time. How does he handle that type of pressure, that type of environment, that type of competitiveness? Because we know LeBron in the playoffs, he's a different beast, no matter how old he is. And then they got AD, and so it's very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting playoff scene.
I'm especially excited for it.
I'm just gonna do this real quick. Go ahead.
All right, as long as you can hear us well. I'm like particularly excited about this one. On top of the fact that I'm just trying to like get into the sport more, but also I feel like for the past few seasons, my attempts to get into it almost got like I almost was like kind of jaded after a few years because it seemed like it was just the Warriors destroying everybody season after season after season. And obviously, I wouldn't wish like injury upon anybody, or I don't want like. I wouldn't say like I'm glad that like the reason the Warriors aren't doing well is because they have a lot of injuries or whatever, but it's kind of nice to see other teams get a chance to jump into the spotlight after that dynasty lasted for a while.
Right. Yeah, no, that's like what I said. I mean, you got Luka Doncic on the Mavericks now. You've got the Knicks, who are still kind of doing terrible, but they got RJ Barrett, they got Mitchell Robinson, and contrary to a lot of popular people's beliefs, I do think the Knicks have a good future because they did, over the course of the trade deadline, get some first-round picks. We can talk about that another time, though. But, yeah, like you said, like the league is just so much more competitive this year. There's the Celtics-Lakers rivalry back that, when I watch with Jerry, my local Celtics fan, we always enjoy watching Celtics versus Lakers, Celtics versus Rockets. Like, there's always a lot more competitive games now because it feels like every team's got that go-to guy that you can kind of say, oh yeah, like that's his team, right? Mm-hmm. So Giannis with the Bucks, LeBron with the Lakers, Luka Doncic with the Mavericks. You've got RJ Barrett with the Knicks. So there's a lot more competitiveness now than there were in past years. If that makes any sense. And Toronto's come back; they've bounced back well, which usually isn't the case from a championship run. They've bounced back well. They're in the mix in the East, so it's going to be definitely way more interesting. Do you have any idea what team you want to rep?
I mean, I've always tried to get into like Knicks games and watch.
Oh, that makes sense. Why you're so jaded.
From New York, but also that's literally the reason why I try for like a few years now. And every season they just give me nothing to work with to get excited about.
It's terrible, man.
So I just can't really get into it. But
so you're a Mets fan and a Knicks fan?
In theory, Mets fan for sure. In theory, I'm a Knicks fan, but like I wouldn't necessarily ascribe myself the title before I'm like because I'm not
fully into it,
inundated into like basketball yet. But I would never, or I don't know. I'd probably root for the Knicks just because like they're the New York team.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm an OKC fan. Okay. So because I saw the Knicks and I was like,
it's hard.
Yeah. It's really I'm already a Mets fan. Like I already have enough reason to like just be depressed. So I don't need another one in there. I don't need another one in the mix. I'm also a Giants fan, so that's also
okay. Yeah, me too.
It's a lot of sadness for New York sports. Yeah, but we're on it's weird because we have like 300 we have like 3 teams in every single sport, yet we can't do anything.
Seriously. Yeah.
I mean, obviously outside of the Yankees and now the Islanders are sort of all right this season. They're, I think, challenging for the Atlantic Division Central. Yeah, I could be wrong. I don't know.
Rangers are making some noise as well.
Really?
Rangers got a young team. Their young like stud goalie was in a car crash recently and injured one of his ribs. So I don't know how long he's out for, but
That's the definition
Yeah.
of New York sports fans luck.
I think the Rangers have like the youngest collective team in the NHL, and they were until recently on like a really hot streak. So
Let me check this. 1 sec. Let me check the standings. But yeah, no. So I would say when picking your NBA team, try to find relations. So obviously you live in New York. You have the Knicks and the Nets. But do you have any like extended family anywhere else? Like that's what I usually do because
Oh,
I had
really?
like I had a cousin that I really liked in Oklahoma, right? So I just cling to that. It's basically like if anyone asks you why you're a fan of that team, like, why are you OKC fan? You live in New York. I'd be like, I got family out in OKC, and they love it.
Yeah, it's valid.
So, that's what I would try to do. But the Knicks probably, I mean, they have promise coming up, in my opinion. Things trying to kill me. They have promise coming up, in my opinion. But I would say for now, until they really become challengers for any type of even playoff spot, I would say just steer clear of them because it's
seems fair.
Anything that comes out of that team is just incompetent. Like I don't know if you saw the whole elevator thing we talked about in class.
The Spike Lee debacle.
Spike Lee debacle,
God.
yeah.
Jesus, wasn't it? Heard that on like some TV stuff this morning. That's saying it was just like a bad. Who is the one that like made like it was a bad look for like the Knicks president who was saying
Dolan.
That's him.
Guy's a clown.
I heard the name. Yeah,
that's
I
such
heard
a
him
clown.
getting trashed talking about. And I will say, I do think Spike Lee may have overreacted a little bit, taking it to like the national stage and complaining. I mean, I get why he's like a super fan, dropped probably like millions at this point to season tickets, and
100%.
I mean, they were still gonna let him take like a VIP entrance, but I get why he would be kind of upset about this. It's just a bizarre situation, I think.
Well, I know that they said that it was Dolan's word against his, and that Dolan said that he had the MVP or the MVP, the VIP entrance. But I mean, I don't know who are you gonna go with? Are you gonna go with Dolan's word, or are you gonna go with Spike Lee's word? Because to me, like Dolan, I'm more inclined to believe Spike Lee, even though Dolan's the general manager of the team.
Mm.
I definitely think I agree with you. I think Spike Lee really just blew it out of proportion for no reason. I mean, if someone asked you to get out of an elevator that you've been using for a while, like for me, I'd just be like, okay. At the same time, I'd kind of be like, yeah, like why can't I just use the elevator? And Dolan always has a history of kind of mistreating his biggest fans or people that are beloved to the team. Like he kicked Charles Oakley out of the entire MSG arena for life just because they got like it's like stuff like that. Like Dolan has a habit of just running everyone out of town. I mean, obviously even players don't want to play at MSG because of Dolan.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
like for that.
Yeah, New York used to be like a draw because you could play at MSG, like you could play under the big lights at Madison Square Garden, like everyone loved that. Dolan is like the counteracting to that. Like he's like the exact opposite. Like I feel like the Knicks would have an easier time drawing in talent if Dolan weren't in there. I mean, he undercut when you're talking about contract negotiations. He undercut KD and he undercut what's his name, Kyrie, who were both going there. They were going to offer him a max, and then they backed out on KD because KD was injured, which is ridiculous. Because if you're the Knicks, like you're not doing anything right now. If the guy's injured, you just keep him on ice, give him a max, and then you do what the Nets did. They're going to have him like a year or two. So it doesn't. You know what? It's Dolan. You get rid of Dolan, you probably have a better Knicks team overall.
Sounds like it. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
I'm learning so much here right now.
Yeah. No. I mean, you could always come over to the OKC bandwagon. Well, not even bandwagon because we're not that good right now, but we have a lot of first round picks coming up. So OKC is kind of like the Knicks right now, except we actually have a future. If that makes any sense, Right.
That's reason for you to be optimistic.
So,
but who would you think now, with the playoffs and that's starting to take shape? Which teams do you think are going to be making the most noise and have the best chances at winning the NBA championship?
Well, I'd say I'll give you teams to watch. So the Bucks have been on a 52-10 winning streak.
Seriously?
52-10, yeah.
My God.
Yeah, they have been very dominant. They're first in the East. I'd keep a lookout on them. I think they're a lock for the chip. If not a finals appearance, definitely a finals appearance. The Lakers are someone to watch out for in the West because obviously they've been dominant in the West. Clippers should be thrown in the mix because the Clippers have a really defensively solid team with a lot of depth because they added Marcus Morris. Celtics are really fun to watch. They're third in the East right now. I think they're challenging for the 2 spot. They're also just like likable. They're a likable bunch of guys now that Kyrie left. Who else? Toronto's having a great bounce back year. They're kind of like the underdogs, but they've been overperforming. I'm trying to think of who else in the West. Let me pull up the rankings here. But yeah, no, there's a lot of it's going to be very interesting and competitive series this year in terms of the Western Eastern playoffs. So it's really about I'd say just keep this year and just watch. Let me see, playoffs.
And even before that, we got the March Madness tournament kind of. So there's a lot of basketball stuff to get super hyped about.
There's so much basketball. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover it on my podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, it's always chaotic. I mean, literally March Madness.
It's madness. And I don't even watch that much college ball. I try to keep up with it just because.
Same, yeah. I mean, my roommate, he actually came here to play basketball. So by technicality, I guess he's a D1 basketball player, but he doesn't really do it anymore. So he just keeps me very informed. He always keeps it on TV. So I still I don't really know like much about anything, but it's fun to watch. And the tournament's always fun regardless of how much you keep up with it, I feel like.
Yeah, oh yeah, no. Especially with like those, the Cinderella stories with like the buzzer beaters and the teams that aren't even supposed to be there making it, So it's all fun to watch.
We got the standings here.
Miami's another great team to watch. They've been overachieving this year. I know Danny in there is a big fan of Miami. My OKC Thunder are in there at the 6th seed currently. Dallas could be making a run. Philadelphia, I wouldn't bet on. Houston, I wouldn't bet on either because they have more of a small ball lineup. The Jazz are pretty solid defensively. I mean, there's a lot of teams where you could see them canceling one other team out or making a solid run. But I feel like I'm rambling on. It is your show at the end of the day.
I mean, you know a lot more about basketball than I do. That's kind of the point of the segment. I'm getting so educated. Hopefully, if you watch my show, you probably don't know much about basketball either. So it's a learning experience right now.
Yeah, I'll try. I was trying to go slow, but the thing about basketball is I feel like it's the easiest out of the 4 major sports to get into because there's football, probably followed by football, because the NBA markets their athletes pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's easy to follow up on trades because there's only 5 guys on the court all at once, and then there's 5 guys coming off the bench. So it's pretty easy to know which guy is on which team. Like that's how I got into it. I just listened to a bunch of like First Take, like you listen to, and a lot of sports radio, because that's what I really want to do. Or any type of radio. But yeah, I'd say basketball is the easiest to get into if you could find a team and you just follow them. Baseball is a little more tough though.
Yeah, I'm surprised that was the one I first got it latched onto. It's because the Mets made the World Series in 2015, and I got really excited about it for some reason. And ever since then, I've just been a super fan.
Yeah, I mean the Mets are a likable team too. We're a small market. We're not supposed to be small market, but we are.
Yeah,
we're in New York City, which is supposed to be characteristically a very big market. But in a way, you've been to Citi Field, is it?
Yeah.
You've been to Citi Field recently? I love just the vibe of Citi Field.
Yeah, it's a great place to go to a baseball game.
It just
to hang out.
It feels like you're in a little community of underdogs that shouldn't be in the MLB, but we're coming up and we're gonna fight. So I like the feeling of having a team like the Mets there. So yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to add about baseball, basketball, anything else before we wrap it up here?
It's been an interesting year in sports, and it'll continue to be an interesting year.
Absolutely.
March Madness, also a wild west shootout. A lot of teams are neck and neck. There's not one specific team that I would say has a lock for the championship. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Maybe
the Gales winning. Whoever wins the MAC tournament, does that get them into March Madness? Is that how that works? Maybe our own Iona Gales will be making an appearance in the dance in March Madness.
Who knows?
We can hope. Senior night tonight, I think.
Is there a game tonight?
I think so.
Oh.
So if you want to go check that out, root for the Gales, go do that. Or my friend, team manager Morty Rainey will be really mad at you. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you tuned in, thank you to my guest Jacob Cooperin.
Thank you for having me.
Probably my favorite episode yet. Lots of good stuff covered here.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Got our first.
I'd love to be
comment.
back if you ever have me.
Of course, most sports educational episode ever. I'll see you next week with I don't even know what yet, but hopefully it'll be good. So see you then.
Bye, guys.
Oh my god, I thought it was gonna be tangled up there.